hopefully somewhere in here, hello everyone, that gets picked up, and then I gotta wait and mute myself. And if any of you guys are on the live stream, don't forget to mute yourself. Setting up for your meeting. Oh, look at that.
We are live. We are live. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I have to mute my speaker here. Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to the 89th. No, I don't know how many we've been doing.
12, maybe?
Sounds about right.
Let's see.
It's been a while.
There we go. Now I'm live.
I'm gonna be distracted for a minute. So if someone wants to talk, John, do you want to show us your changes?
Yeah. Give me just 1 second. I just post the link to the Zoom channel.
Thank you. Yeah.
On YouTube.
Ooh.
Okay. Yes, I've been working. Let me just find the right window. So yes, I've been working on the first tool I developed using AutoHotkey. It was in 2000. Hi.
Sorry,
who's talking? Okay, yeah, it was the delay. Yeah, it's called CSV Buddy. It's a tool that allows to edit CSV files. And first, I developed a library that is called Object CSV, so Object CSV, that allows to load CSV file in Object in AutoHotkey, and then save it or do various things with the data you have in the memory of your using AutoHotkey. And then I built a kind of front end for this that is CSV Buddy that I can show you, because I restart working on it to add some feature that were suggested by a friend of you, Joe, and something that is interesting. And so it took me back to the code I wrote 10 years ago, 9 years ago. So it's interesting to revisit this code. I could share my virtual box here. And if anybody else has questions, or we can,
sorry about that.
Yeah, we can switch to another topic at some point and come back to this demo if you wish at some point. So where is it? It's here. So that's the icon of this tool, CSV Buddy. It's built using tabs. So you have a tab where you load files. You give some specs that I explain. After that, you will be able to edit the column of your CSV file, then save it or export it in various formats. So for example, I will select a file that is a list of countries. Automatically, it will detect what is the header, because I said here, get the header from the file. So it gets the name of each column or each field of the file from the first line of this text file. It detected that the delimiter was comma. It could be anything else. Often, I'm in French Canada, so the regional settings in French Canada, if you use Excel, for example, by default, the field separator will be semicolon instead of comma. So that's the kind of things that make that made that I needed the tool like this just to convert file, because if you export a file from Excel, here in Canada, in French Canada, regional settings, and you need to import it in the system that requires the file to be really comma delimited, then you have to do some manipulation to prepare the file. So that's why this tool is built. So it detected that the field delimiter was the comma, that the field encapsulator. So in CSV, if your file is comma delimited, but if a field has to include a comma, it has to be enclosed between delimiters, between encapsulators, which is double quote by default, in order to preserve this comma not being considered as a separator of field. I'll show you later this option about multi-line feeds with multi-line fields, and it can also import in various encoding I think the file I will load now is just an ANSI file. So the file is loaded here. I won't go into every detail, but you can here use various commands to sort, edit. It's not Excel, but it's some basic features that allows to edit specific fields or remove columns, things like remove rows. But most commonly, what you will appreciate in this tool is this tab here, where you can rename the fields. So for example, instead of common name, I could replace it by country name. And I hope it's big enough. I show it to you on my VirtualBox because I can make the screen smaller, so it probably gets bigger on your screen than if I was in my regular large screen. So you could rename any field, and when you click rename, it will just here change the header of this file, and when you will save the file, it will use this new name. The second option is to select fields. So if I don't want, for example, every field after subtype, so from here, I can delete until the end. You know, there's a lot of columns that you don't see, but if I select here, it will remove, oops, I just forgot probably to press delete. Here until the end, delete, and then select, whoops. So now I only have these 4 fields. I don't have the remaining columns, and you can change the order of the fields. So if I want the formal name to be before the other name, I can here change the order like this. I have 2 commas here, and it will change the order. So that's part one of the things you can do. And then when you save this file, that's where you can say that if this file is to be imported in a system that requires semicolon as separator, as field delimiter, so you can put semicolon here. You can say if you want to save it with or without header. If it's a multi-line file, I'll come back to that, and the encoding here. And when you save, by default, it will be the original name with number 1 being added if required. So the file is now saved. And if I click check, it will open Notepad to show me this file that includes the data with the correct delimiter. So this is a simple demo with a small file. I could show you that it can process pretty large files. If I go here and select this one here. So it's a text file of 2 megs. And I will just click, okay, excuse me, I have to go to load, not to save. I'll select the same file and click load. It will replace the current content. And because it's a long file, you see here the progress. So there are 3 steps. One where it loads the file in memory, then it processes it, and then it put it in the list view. But it's been pretty fast for something that is 25,000 lines. And it can process much larger files. Of course, it will take more time, but if you use the 64-bit version of the software, it will use virtual memory. So there's always a time limit to the size of the file you can process, but there's no memory limit to the size of the file that you can process. And so there are the same features here. I didn't mention, so export, you could export this file as a fixed width. So for each field, you would say what width you want to give. And in this case, some old systems will export or import files with fixed width. So you have to pad each field to get to the same length. It can export to HTML, where you can load a template, and inside the template, you can insert placeholders that will be replaced with the content of each line. Same thing for XML. And Express, I just don't remember what it is, 10 years ago. So I would have to revisit this. And so that's, and there are some options. So it's very rudimentary way to give options here. I should rework on all the GUI of this application at some point. But the last thing I want to show you before showing you what is new and then what I'm working on now is that it can also process multi-line feeds. If you've ever exported emails from Outlook or probably from Gmail too, you have a CSV file, but some of the fields will be multi-line. The text, the body of your email will take multiple lines. So if you import it in Gmail, in Excel, Excel does not consider the fact that there are multiple fields with multiple lines. So I'll just get this one here, I think. So at first it will be loaded without considering multiple line. And so the data will be just not well formatted because every new line in the body of your email will be considered as the beginning of a new field, a new row in your file. So it breaks everything. So I can show you, and you see here that we have close to 4,000 records in this file, but there are false records because they are in fact just various lines inside text fields. So and in this case, I think it's a note field that contains multiple lines. Okay, let me just reload it now, the same file, but with multiple line fields, replace. And now we have the first name, last name, web page, and notes, and it is the notes field that contains multiple lines. If we open maybe this one here, I just replace, just to preserve the confidentiality of the information, I did some scrambling here, but let me open this one here with a view full screen. So you see that this field here has multiple lines. Yeah, we have here various lines here. So this would not be processed correctly by Excel. So that's why you can then use this. And if you wish, you can rename, move columns, or export it in various formats. What I've been working, any question on that, or that's good?
Well, let me chime in just for a second here, because as someone who, granted, I used to work in data science, so I played a lot with especially large data files and text files. I mean, this comes up a lot, and I was laughing at that fixed width file format because I'm like, I always hated when I would get those. They're always a pain. Yeah. But yeah, it's very cool to have a tool that would automate, not automate, but make it easy to peek inside and kind of look at what you're doing and dynamically doing this. The other one, which and I don't want to take you off track, but if you haven't used the built-in Windows ADO database, like there's one built into every Windows computer going back for who knows how long, but you can actually open text files with SQL and manipulate it. But anyway, that I need to make some videos on that at some point. Yeah, it's not for this, but it's just like, it's one of those almost nobody knows about. And it's just it's a shame. But anyway, so good. Keep going, John.
Yep. So the feature I added was, someone asked, is it possible when we load a file or when we process a file to reuse some of the existing fields in a new field? So to create a new field that would be the concatenation of existing fields. And let me just show you this file here, which is a list of songs of the Beatles. So we have the name, the album, the track number, and various information for each song. And the question was, would it be possible here to add some instruction in the header here that could be processed to create a field that would be the concatenation of other fields? So I've been working on this, and in this field, this file here, I'll just make it full screen, it will be easier. So we have the name, it's a comma delimited file. We have the name of the song, the album, the track number, and I create here a field that does not exist in the data of the file, but that will be generated or built when the file will be loaded, that will put first the track number field with a number sign before, with column after that, and then the title of the song. So that here will be the the content that will be added, and the last section here is what will be the name of this new columns. So if I load this file, so let me start it here, and I will select this file here and load. So you see this column here did not exist in the file, but was created. So that's the work I've done in the last weeks, just to have this syntax here, which is a first section where you give the format of your new content with fields to be included, like when you do merge in Word, or so using these placeholders, and then the name of the new field. So that's the new things I've been working on. And it brings me to a question for you, unless you have question of this tool, but the next step for me is, now that I can do it to concatenate text, could I also process numbers and do some calculation based on the content? So if I have a price and a quantity field, could I calculate the total price, so multiply the two values, or do any calculation? So I've done some research, and I'll just now switch my share screen to my development. Where is stop share? Is here. Are we good, or don't we have questions? Other questions?
I think we're good on that.
Yeah.
Where do you download that from? Do you have a link for that?
Yeah.
I'll throw that in the chat in case anybody wants to play around with it.
I'll just return here to Edge, and that's where it is. It's code.jeanlalonde.ca/csvbody.
Throw it in the chat, Jean.
Yeah, I'll just remember that. Yeah, I'll just remember that my VirtualBox clipboard does not communicate with my other PC. So if you could do it, Joe, if you have a second. Okay.
There we go.
So and there's also on the same site, you will see here obj CSV library. That's the library that allows CSVBody to load files, and this library has functions like CSV to collection, so it loads the data from the file and put it in memory in a AutoHotkey object, and then collection to CSV to save to a CSV file, to a fixed width HTML, to a list view. So collection to list view is to put on your GUI, and list view to collection is to take the GUI and put it back in memory in order to be able to save it to a file. So that's the back end, if you wish, and here CSVBody is the front end of this application. Okay, my question is about what are the tools that are available to process expressions, and I've looked at I searched I'll just enlarge this here. So there's on the forum a function that is called eval, and what it does, it uses the Internet Explorer JavaScript engine to process an expression. So it will where is it? It creates here an object that is an HTML file. Then it will write a small HTML code that will include an expression here inside a command that is eval and as the body of your text. So in fact, it will load Explorer in memory and process and create a page that will contain the result of this expression here, result of the eval function. So for example, if I have, and these examples are from the guy that did that, that put it, I don't have the reference here. Yes, Tidbit who did this. So if I run this file, so it shows here, I don't know how you pronounce in English, P in French, is it pi?
Pi, yeah.
Pi, okay, like the pi. Multiply by E, not sure what E does here. It's it would be 0 if it was a variable. So not sure what it does, but it gives finally and multiplied by 4. So it gives this result here. The second example is simpler. It's simply 5 plus 5. The third example is using eval to in a condition. So if 5 plus 3 equals 132, it will say that it's wrong. So because it calculated here that it gives 8. And the last example is when you use a variable, an AutoHotkey variable here. So it does, in fact, 10, the variable plus 10 plus the variable again. So, and it evaluates that. It evaluates that and gives the result 30. So these are different examples that you give. So I could use this in CSV body to allow, for example, if the content, the format starts with equal, then as in Excel, it would process the remaining content of the field as being an expression to be calculated. But I was wondering if you know other ways to evaluate expressions, maybe that would not create a dependency to Windows Explorer or to Internet Explorer, so that where I am in my research about that. So, and I don't know if this is, I didn't test it on 25,000 lines, for example. How fast is it to call Explorer 25,000 times when you load a file? So that's where I'm.
Yeah, and to clarify, I mean, I don't know a lot about that, but I do know you can create that COM object once and reuse it, right? So you wouldn't have to be recreating it every time. Right?
Yeah, here it seems that it created every time. So yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it could be done in the header here. So this, yeah, if it was a global variable, I could do it here.
Or even have it, I know MySQL does it where he puts it as a static variable. So the first time it creates it and then it just reuses it going forward. But anyway,
inside the function. Yeah, that's two ways to get the same.
Yeah, and it's just a good tip to tell people, because it's when he did that, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, well, if you create it as a static, you know, it sticks and it just doesn't recreate it, just uses it going forward. I'm like, that's wow. Okay.
And this function here, what it does, it will just make sure that the syntax of your expression is correct for the JavaScript interpreter that there is in Excel. So some content has to be capital, some functions has to be lowercase. So it's all processed here, and so it prepare the expression to be used here inside this. So it may work. It could be a good solution, but I was just wondering if you ever seen other ways, something that maybe would done completely in AutoHotkey to parsing your expression and then giving you the result at the end. But I haven't found that on the forum at least.
What I'm unclear on, because I'm trying to remember what the command is. Is it format? There's one of them that gives you a lot of mathematical things you can do.
Yeah, to transform the existing value, but nothing that I've seen that would calculate something new based on two values, for example.
Yeah, but it's not, I mean, the thing I'm remembering isn't, it's doing different math functions. And maybe I'm not understanding what you're trying to do, but
I'm trying just to pass something like 2 plus 2 and then get the result of this. And then the result being 4, I could use a format command to say that I want 2 decimal or things like that. But the point is to get the result of a calculation that can be done here.
But you can do 2 plus 2. So that's why I'm just, so
yeah.
What's wrong with doing 2 plus 2?
It's not that it is wrong, is that here I have a dependency on a COM object, and I'm not sure if it's
but why are you
efficient.
I'm saying is you can literally do 2 plus 2 in one line outside of all of this.
Yeah, but if you have an expression that is a text expression that contains parentheses and things like that, you cannot just, and it is text, you cannot calculate this text expression.
Can you show me an example when you say it's text?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
How would you get 3 from this string?
Well, clearly 1 plus 2 is 3. No, I'm kidding you.
Yeah, yeah. So if I do this here, it will eval here str and give me the result. Something wrong.
But I guess, which I now I think I understand your point, right? What I don't understand is when would you get something like 1 plus 2? So you're going to let them, you're going to have something in the file decide?
Yeah. So instead of, if I go back to my example file, where was it? Here, this one. Where is the file? Here. So here, you can, in the example I showed you, it takes the text fields and concatenate them with some content that, but if someone was typing equal track number multiplied by 2, for example, and then let's remove the remaining here. So we have an expression here that would calculate.
Sorry, am I not seeing what you're doing?
I'm not sharing.
Yeah, I just see your editor.
We see site.
Okay, I just shared the application. Sorry. Screen here. Okay. So in the example here, I will we add here number and then this text field and then column and another text field. But if instead I have a mathematical expression like this, track number multiplied by 2, it makes no sense to multiply a track number, I agree. But just to understand that you could take 2 values from the preceding fields and then have them being multiplied or some expression. So I get this here when I parse the file. How do I do the calculation of this to give the result that would be 24 multiplied by 248? That's what I'm looking for. So I would get a string here with a value in it.
But why would you, I guess my thought is, and maybe I'm just not understanding where it's coming from, wouldn't you do the math before it goes into there, not after?
I get these instructions when I'm loading the file. So for every line of the file, after I've processed the existing fields,
okay,
I have here to calculate, okay, what should be the value for this one? It should be 48. And I put 48 in, the collection and then in the list view.
Yeah, the math is something they've added to the file.
Yeah.
It just seems weird to me because if they know the math ahead of time, why didn't, I guess they're using your tool to do the math is the point.
It was, let's say it was exported from a system that contains only these fields, and then you need to do something else. And of course you could do it with Excel, and there are many other solutions to that. But the one I'm building is integrated with the processing of the CSV file. And the next step for me will be to automate that, to be able to have commands like to script the processing of a file. So it's one of the things that I'm considering to add as feature, to have these calculations here.
So when you copy whatever data, what does the string actually look like? Like what would the variable? A
simple one will be this. A simple example will be this. 1 plus 2. I just don't know why it didn't work.
I mean, is it the quotations that's the problem?
No,
I mean, wouldn't you just get rid of the quotations and it should work, right?
Oh, yes. But when you get it from a text file, you cannot remove the quotation. It's a text variable.
Oh, okay. So I would just run it through a string replace then and remove quotations. And then just put the variable there.
The quotations are not inside the variable, so you cannot replace them.
So then why would the quotations appear here?
They appear because I'm giving a simple example, but if you are in the text file, what you get is this. In fact, there would be an equal just to say that this has to be calculated.
And your reference there is to the header, right? Which is, I mean,
yeah, the header of the file.
Would that be in every row also? That's just in the header. Is it just in the header?
Just in the header, because in every row, I will have to process this new field and add here the value that would be 48 in this case, 22 in this case, because we have 11 here.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, no, I don't know, I haven't done anything like that other than saying, which is probably, and it's, maybe it was from Tidbit in the first place. There are ones for like doing hot strings and doing math, right? Where you just type. So if maybe that's what this is,
maybe it's using this.
It very well could be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I have seen it's a similar concept of like, how do I just hit something, type, and have it do the thing for me?
Yeah. So I just don't know if I type 1 + 2 here, if it works. Stop. No, it doesn't work. I'm doing the same thing as here. What's wrong? Let's forget about this. Eval 5 + 5, 1 + 2. Message box.
Why are you doing the evaluate thing?
That's going to take that string and do the math.
I wouldn't do that if I was writing a script like I'm doing here. I will have to do that when I get a string that contains an expression.
But the first line of code that you had there before you delete it, that should just do the math anyway. You have no reason for the evaluate, I would think. That's how I've always done it.
Not if it is a string.
He's saying he gets it inside the file and it's text.
Yeah.
And he's needing a way to process it from there. So yeah.
Anyway, I just have an example here that I can't make work. But it's because the creation of the object was after. So now it will work.
Well, why wouldn't because
now it gives 3.
Right.
Yeah, the point, if we go back to the example we had before, when we had this, of course, if I remove this, this will be 3. But what I get is a string with I don't know what is in the middle of the string here that has to be calculated. But I was just trying to see if there was other options, but seems that no, and maybe that's the only one that is available to use this this evaluator here.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, sorry, John. Sorry, and that is I guess we could have explained it just a little. It was confusing, right? Because Tom and I both were just like, but you have it right there.
Yeah.
and when we looked at your file, I didn't realize you were just doing it in the header, and I'm like, why would someone append all this to all of their rows? And it's like, they're not. They're just doing it in the header.
Yeah.
And then you're going to apply it. So I get it.
Yeah.
So Constant had a question, and real quickly, not to stop you, Constant, but get ready to share your screen and we'll dive into it. But last week we kind of discussed real quickly, is there an API for getting the chat? And this way it would really streamline being able to see, because it gets really confusing when we have all these windows and it's hard for us to watch the chat. And I reached out to Jeeswig and just asked him if he'd ever used the API to pull stuff from a live stream, and he said no, but he gave me some other code, and I was testing it at the very beginning here. That's why I was a little sidetracked, and I was able to get fragments of it. I mean, to get the stuff right. It wasn't a whole file because the video is still running, but I also noticed in the YouTube API, there is a live stream API for pulling the chat. So there's a better way than what he didn't understand. I didn't really formulate my question really well to him, other than saying I was trying to get a live stream. But that could be pretty cool. We could build an AutoHotkey GUI for having it up, and even combine theoretically the Zoom chat and the YouTube chat into one window that always stays on top, and make it much easier for us to see what in the world's going on. So, okay. All right, Constance, you want to share your screen?
Let me turn on my voice, share screen.
So you have an extension in Chrome that and I wasn't quite 100% what you were trying to do. You're trying to click it all the, when it's up.
This area here, which I just highlighted, is an extension, Chrome extension called Aura. And I want to be able to click on this particular example. Doesn't have a button on it. Let me refresh it.
Of course.
But normally there'll be a set of buttons in here, and I want to click on them. But in this case, I can click on this button A and C. So I need to be able to determine where that is. And I have your tool up here, and I assume that you use the plus sign and drag it over here to the.
We can't see, just FYI, we can't see the tool. I don't know if you
can't
shared.
see your tool. Okay.
Right.
Is that good now? Can you see that?
No.
You're not seeing.
I think you're sharing your window versus your desktop.
Yeah, when you share like Chrome, it just shares it, not anything else.
Okay. Share screen, is that what I pick?
Yeah. Yeah, and you just pick which screen you want if you have more than one.
And did that do it? Nope.
No, we don't see the ACC viewer. No. So when you hit share screen, there's screens, and then there's, the actual programs. Usually the first things listed are screens, and you can select the
screen 1 and screen 2.
Yeah, right? Okay. Yeah. That should do it when you share it. Okay, now desktop. Yeah.
Now you see my desktop?
Well, with some lady on the beach, looks like running.
Okay, so I picked the wrong one. Sorry. Another learning curve.
Yep. Or you can just move the stuff over here, either whatever works. Oh yeah, that's fine.
Now, do you see screen 1?
Yes.
There you go.
And we see the tool.
Okay. So you can see your tool here.
Right.
Right. And the plus sign identifies the area over here, correct?
Right. Yeah, which is awesome. So go ahead and let go. Unfortunately, yeah.
It doesn't see anything in here. It's like this is transparent to the tool.
Yeah, and even then, for whatever reason, the path is blank, which that path is critically important for us to be able to use. Hit the show more button in the bottom right of the tool. Not that that's going to help, but let's just see what that does.
Well, this is an extension, right?
Yes.
So it probably won't be able to see any information.
Well, it highlighted the GUI. I mean, it highlighted that GUI. It's seeing it.
Well, yeah, the GUI gets produced within the browser, but then after that, everything else is produced within the GUI. So it might not have access to that information. The only way to really tell would be if you can right click on that button and say inspect item. This is kind of the manual way of doing this.
Right click on this button.
Right click on it and then go to inspect.
Yeah, but that's taking a whole different approach, Tom. That's the DOM, which is fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was seeing if it had any type of information here, because usually you can at least grab the ID this way. This is how I usually do it instead of in this program.
Well, my point is it's a whole different architecture than what the ACC library is using.
Oh, you're using ACC. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And not that it's wrong. Don't get me, I'm just saying you are correct. If we're going to try to use like the Chrome class, or maybe even what's the one that you turned me on to, the auto control thing, then spot on. You're right. We would need to we can use it, which would be my secondary compared to the ACC. Because the ACC often can
Explorer.
That looks like Chrome, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it is Chrome. Okay. I was just checking.
Yep. But while we're here, since you already got that up with the the inspector tool, you can move the ACC viewer out of the way. Let's go ahead and go down this route, right? It's not that one's better than the other.
Doesn't want to move. Oh, there we go. Okay. Take it all the way out.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So so see, the fact that you can see these is very promising as well, which is what Tom was alluding to, is there's a class or a search target, right? So
okay.
Now help me understand what were you, once you get this, did you say you were gonna by default click it? What were you trying to do?
Yeah, I wanted to, this is, yes, I want to click this field from another app, from a script.
Yeah. So if you can try to navigate over on the right to get around to it, because clearly we're on the ANC, the ancestry thing on the right. If you go over to the right, and this is where we're using the DOM. So this is your DOM structure, which there you go. So see, you wanted the FS one, is that right?
Right.
So go down a little bit. I saw it highlighted when you were down one. There you go. So the question is there, so the title, we have a title there of family search. The question is there some other thing like a unique ID? There's an ID, there's elements, there's a lot of stuff, different ways you can use to target stuff, right?
Okay.
I don't see, the class clearly isn't unique because I can see it, and we can use a class as an array. And so we could use, it looks like the second, which would mean one, because they're, I think, 0 indexed, if I remember right. We might be able to use that approach. Unfortunately, I don't see an ID, which would be really helpful, but that's okay. And we could loop over all of them and get the text. But after you get it, and I'm sorry, you wanted to click it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, and this is where it gets a little complicated, unfortunately, especially with the Chrome AHK class. This is where I would say there's an extension that I've talked about a couple times, auto control. Is that right, Tom? That's what it's called, I think.
Auto control manager.
Is it auto control manager? Okay, I don't remember that at all.
I don't know. It's weird. Like when you're on the Play Store, it's one name, but when you actually download it, like the name switches up for some reason.
Well, there is a manager aspect to it that runs, but anyway, we'll give you the link to it.
I'll grab that now.
Okay, thank you. And it's an extension you install. And the cool, so there's a Chrome class written by Geek Dude that's very cool. However, it often gets stuck in loops often, and it becomes problematic. And I'm not knocking what he's done because it's a great functionality, but it can be. It just gets back to IE. Things were so easy with IE, and I just get jealous, right? But this extension also, just like the Chrome class does, connects to the DOM programmatically. Basically, it's that your console there. And actually, so you know what? That's a good thing for us to start on. So see where it says if you go left and down about 3 inches, whatever inches mean in this, see where it says console? Go down, 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 down. No, not inside there. Keep moving your mouse down.
Right where that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So click that. And now this, you can type freehand in here, and it will interact with your window. And what's cool is while we do this, you can pull information. It's not, and we can programmatically with this extension that Tom's going to use or the Geek Dude Chrome class, we can connect to this console thing here and submit stuff and pull stuff, right? So I don't use this a lot, but if I remember right, you have to start with document, Tom. Do you remember? Inside here, I can't remember if you have to type document to start. I think you do.
Oh, for console?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's been a while since I've used console. I've gotten so used to using the auto control thing where you don't need that.
Well, you still at some point do. I mean,
it's doing it, like in the background for you. I'm sure.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
One quick question: you mentioned that there was a problem with Chrome. Would it be better if I just switched to IE?
If there's an IE extension, amen. Yes.
Yes, there is.
Oh man, it's so much easier. Web scraping is so much easier with IE, and I'm going to get a lot of hate messages in here of blah 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 blah. But I'll tell you that IE COM object, it makes it so much easier. And I have an IE syntax writer that even helps you write your code. Right? It's so much easier.
Okay. Well, I think let me play with that for the week and take a look at it. I would still start off with your accessibility tool to.
Honestly, I wouldn't. If you have the IE extension, I mean, if you can do it, if you want, reach out to me later on, and we'll plan a time to just jump on and real quickly, go through it. Because with IE, we could probably crank it out in a few minutes and have it very, very reliable. I mean, that's the key thing, right? It's with IE, it's reliable.
I'm not married to Chrome, and the extension is available on almost all the platforms.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's give that a whirl. Like I said, just reach out to me or over the weekend if you want. I work all the time, doesn't matter. So, but we'll figure out a time where I can just jump on, and maybe if it's easier to install an IE, maybe then I can even test it on mine. Like that's fine. It was just you were saying it was a little hard to install it with Chrome.
No, it's the same. You still have to go through all this.
Okay, cool.
Steps. It's not hard, but there's a lot of steps. So it'd be better to just share it and take a look at it. Okay, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you taking a look at it. And
I'm excited just because I know IE. I don't want to say inside and out, but I'm so much more proficient in it that that'll be hopefully an easy one to do, or at least we can test it very quickly and see if we can do it or not.
Yeah,
awesome. Okay.
I briefly poked at it and I don't remember what the results were. Okay.
Cool. And then I saw another
John's
question.
other tool.
What's that?
John's other tool, the quick access clipboard.
Well, I saw another question in the chat. I was going to address that first, but
okay.
But then I'd like to see if we have an update for that. We have some. Let's see, sir. Long time you're here. Thanks for an odd problem though. We'll definitely appreciate your help with. Okay,
I have a few too that came up in my chat.
Okay. XC baby 3. I didn't actually see your question. Did you type it yet, or are you do you want to join the Zoom meeting and just talk? It's up to you. And Tom, meanwhile, while he's answering, do you want to field one of your?
Yeah. Reread these. Okay, so the first one I got from here is I respect. He's just asking if it's possible to cheat basically the website securities with CAPTCHA or whatever it's called. It really depends. If it's one of those ones where you have to type the letters, OCR is not really going to work with that. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of it. But if it's one of those ones where it's like, click here to, confirm you're not a robot, you could just use like an image search on that. Each website might be a little different. But yeah, if it's one of those ones where you have to type the text, yeah, there's nothing you can do really there without like.
Actually, for fun, Google what CAPTCHA is an abbreviation for, right? I forget the exact meaning, but it's basically, it's a computer test. It's a Turing test to see if you're human or not. I mean, that's what it's designed for, right? So it kind of gets back to, is sadly, to your point, Tom, it's, no.
Yeah. If it's a text one, there's nothing you can do. They put those squigglies over the letters and everything, so OCR wouldn't even work with it. Now, if it's one of those ones where it's just like click this little box here, you could do like an image search of that, and that you could get around. But also, image search can sometimes be a little bit unreliable. So just something you would have to play with. Every website's a little different, so it would depend what you're doing. And then what was the other one I had? This guy asked about, can you create a countdown timer to see when is current loop? I asked him what he really meant by that. I can at least answer the first question. Yeah, you can use like a tick and then like subtract, or do a math formula to see when it hits 0, or you could do a variable minus.
Why don't you share your screen? Why don't you share your screen and just show? Because I mean, it's a simple, relatively simple one, right? That like a visual will help if you're just describing it. He's like,
let me.
Easy for you to say, Tom. You know what I mean? You remember when you were there, right? You're like,
that's true. You got to remember that stuff.
Yeah. Everything's easy when you've been doing it for a while, and So every kind of, if I remember correctly, there's 5 types of loops inside AutoHotkey. Every one of them, there's only a handful, maybe like 4 built-in variables that are available in every type of AutoHotkey loop. And A_index is one of those, which is assume what you might be using. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, you could do it that way. This is one I actually have right now because I was helping someone with. So here we're making the variable a tick count. It's a built-in variable, so you don't have to like define it. It's just there. So basically for the message box here where it says elapsed time, to get that, we're sleeping for 3 seconds. So right away, that's 3 seconds. And then we're just going to do the start time current versus the current time. So it's just going to subtract the 2 variables, and it's going to display, basically it would display 3 seconds. I mean, it might be a few milliseconds more just from the lines. And then to Joe's point with like a loop, or what this guy I think is asking, is basically exact same thing. The only difference is there's a loop here. So you just put whatever text you want here. So this is looping 5 times. There's a 1 second delay. So then we're going to subtract the start time variable with the current variable time, and we're going to get the lapse, which would equal about 5 seconds. So there's that. And then another method you could do is you could do something along this line here, or but then we would get rid of that. We'll just say like maybe want it at like 5 seconds. And then right here we would just do, we would use the same variable, and we would just do minus. And that basically means we're starting with the number 5. Every time this loop hits this line here, it's going to subtract. So then that number becomes 4. It loops again, becomes 3. And then you could always add like, like an if function here, where it's like if string equals 0 break, in case it was like, 7, but we want it to end at 5 or something. So that's just kind of a quick way to explain it. So there's 2 ways you can do a variable where it just counts down every time it hits this line with 2 minus signs. If you want to add, it's the same thing, but just plus signs. Or you can do some math up here where you're using 2 variables. So you're using these 2 strings to calculate, how much time has gone past. And this is what I was kind of saying to John about this is how I've done it, and I've never had an issue where I'm using 2 variables to calculate. So I'm not sure if this would help you.
No, he knows that. It's just
okay.
It's because if you would have this from a text file, it would be text. You could not calculate it based when it's coming from a text file because it's text.
Gotcha. Oh, I see. Yeah. So hopefully that answers the question. I don't really understand the second part of what he was asking, and I asked him, but he hasn't responded back. But I think that's all I got for now. Oh, someone asked about how to do a double tap on a hotkey. So I actually have a video about that coming out in, I think, about a week or something, with where you can double tap something or within a certain amount of time. If not, it will just use the normal functionality. So if you double tap tab, run your code. If not, I'm trying to remember where that is. It's somewhere. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Did you have anybody on your side, Joe, asking questions?
Yeah. Ashton was asking about using AutoHotkey to basically use a second keyboard for, triggering things. And
Yeah.
I was just telling we actually, I just put the link in it in the chat, is there's a webinar that we did on it, and we did Jackie live in a podcast, borrowed a script. So that was the webinar. And then let me find the link where we have done it. But and then there's, if you look, I think it's under the hotkey help in documentation of a tool where you can, hey, run your script and then hit the key. And then, or actually, I think, you install a hotkey hook. Does that sound right? And then you go back and look at your last hotkey, any script that's running, especially if it has that hotkey hook in it, you can go back and see the last hotkeys hit. And so you hit the key in your other keyboard and you'll see what it shows you. And that's how you can figure out what to use as your trigger, if I remember correctly. But let me find the podcast on the second keyboard, because it was pretty cool.
Also, I don't know if you've ever watched, there's this guy who's pretty popular on YouTube, Tom Scott. If you ever watched any of his videos.
Yeah, the one that has like 5 million views or whatever. It's the most popular.
Yeah, he has like 15 keyboards hooked up to his computer, and he makes like the ultimate emoji thing where every keyboard has like emojis on it, and every key just pastes the emoji into like a text file or something. It's pretty funny. He went like way out of his way to make all that keyboards work.
Yeah, if you search AutoHotkey, it's the most viewed video that has AutoHotkey associated to it.
Yeah,
right? It's crazy. Cool. And then sorry, maybe I'm missing it here, but I saw XC Baby asked about and I don't know why I can't find it, but you determine the lower bound confidence interval for a single proportion. I'm assuming you're talking a stat question, not an AutoHotkey question. And that's where I was being confused on. Actually, I saw a question here. So Denelson, he's in the chat. He has a YouTube channel out of Brazil, and so he's on the chat. He didn't join the Zoom yet, but he wants to know, how can you run AutoHotkey from Notepad++ and have the highlighted syntax like Tabnation? We did a webinar on Notepad++, so I would say cover that. But Tom, if you want to touch on that, because I'm not a Notepad++ user. I've used it.
Yeah. So I actually did a video, if you want to search my channel, where you should be able to just search Notepad++ with my channel, and I show you how to install it. But basically, I mean, it's real simple. You just go to Google and type in AutoHotkey Notepad++ syntax highlighting. Is, I think, what I Googled. And I think there's 2 options right now that somebody has built. So you just pick which one you like. I think I just did whatever the first link is. That video I did has the link I used. So you just basically you just download that real quick, put it where you want, and then in Notepad++ you just let me share my screen because I don't remember exactly what menu it is.
I put a link in the chat because we have the a link to the configuration files for Notepad++ and the webinar and stuff too, just FYI.
Let's see. Yeah, you go to language. So as you see right here, I have it saying AutoHotkeys. So up here where the alphabet is, if I go to AutoHotkeys or A, it's not really going to show in there because it's not built in. These are just built in. I'm actually surprised it has AutoIt built into it. That's interesting. But once you get it downloaded, you're just going to click here and it's going to change that. So anytime you save a file that's .ahk, it's automatically going to recognize that and do the stuff. But right here where it says user defined language, you can just go to, open user defined language if you want to find it that way, or just click on this to import right here. So you'll import that file. I forget what kind of file it's called. And then if you don't like anything, I forget what it was. It was so long ago, but there was something I didn't like. I didn't like the color because it wasn't very visible on my black background. I think it was like gray. It might have been like commented out stuff was gray, so it was hard to read. You can actually edit. So once you import, you can go here and there'll be like a bunch of like syntax here and you can change it. So the styler, so let's say here it said comments, be the color gray. I don't want that. I can push styler and I can change it to whatever I want. I can change it to, I think I changed it to, green. I did like that color green, push OK. So you can also edit the file if you're not happy 100% with the creator's way of doing it. So it's kind of more of a preference thing. There's nothing right, a tick count does not have to be orange. There's no law out there, rule saying, so you can always change it up to however you want. But yeah, I just Googled it. I'll find that video here in a second to link better instructions than what I'm getting here now, just because it's been so long, I kind of forget. So let me find that.
Yeah. Tom, do you know, is there a syntax file, whatever you want to call it, for version 2, AutoHotkey version 2?
Yes and no. Okay, I'm trying to remember what I've done. So when I save the file to, as long as it contains .ahk in it, it's just going to go with that. So when I've done version 2 coding in Notepad++ with the version 1 syntax, it still looks fine. Some things might got a little bit messed up, but I haven't noticed it yet. Where maybe like, because no, GUI still work pretty fine with the syntax highlighting.
How would that?
Basically, the only thing it probably wouldn't work with is if there's any type of new command that's not in version 1, in which case you can just go to that edit box and just add it real quick into whatever color you want it to be. So yeah, it works, but it's technically for version 1. I haven't run into any major problems with it looking weird or not, at least that I've noticed. Well, I feel like I would notice that pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess for me also, because I use mine much more as an IDE where it's programmatically interacting. I can launch stuff and I can debug and things. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Notepad++ doesn't have a debugger by default, right?
Nah. I use, if I ever want to do stuff like that, I'll use VS Code, and you can go to the marketplace or whatever it's called, and they actually have an AutoHotkey extension or whatever to download that works very well with AutoHotkeys. It spits out the errors into the console versus you having to actually run the code. There's a few AutoHotkey stuff in the marketplace that are free to use that are pretty cool, including I think syntax highlighting too. I think there's one built in there.
Well, and I have one that just for help wise, you can be you could be a Notepad, right, and highlight the thing, hit the F1, and it pulls up your help. It pulls up the AutoHotkey documentation and YouTube, on that topic. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, does anyone else have it?
Add into the chat. Oh, I guess it's in your chat, right? That was from you. So that I just posted in the chat the actual link to the video where I show you step by step how to do syntax highlighting in Notepad++. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and like I said, we did a webinar showing documenting the whole install process. I don't know if you document the whole thing, Tom, but yeah, I tried it years and years ago, and that was where I was like, Site out of the box, when you install it, it works so well. I'm like, that's why I stuck with Site for so long, because it was just so easy. It's not that it's better than Notepad++, but for AutoHotkey, it was just simple. And I'm like, okay. When I talk to noobs, people that are just completely new to AutoHotkey, that's why I tell them use Cite, because it installs, it gives you a nice, the F1 help works really well. The syntax highlighting works really well. The, launching of a script works really well. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be using other ones, but if you're not a programmer, it's a great one to start with.
People always ask me why I use Notepad++, and I'm like, well, I use both VS Code and Notepad++. For me, it's just like I will screw up so bad when I'm coding. So I've made it the habit that like in AutoHotkeys, I use Notepad++, just because that's what I'm used to with AutoHotkeys because of my old job. That's what we had. And then if I try to do coding with AutoHotkeys and VS Code, I accidentally will start writing in Python because I'm used to
I understand. Yeah, you've associated it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I just got in the habit now where it's like AutoHotkey is Notepad++ and VS Code is Python. And then for JavaScript, I just use the Auto-Manager thing because I'm always doing it in Chrome anyway. So it's easier to test like right there on the spot with the
When I was learning Python, I converted Cite to be a Python IDE as well. So I could launch my Python scripts from Cite. And I understand exactly what you're saying, Tom, of like, I was getting, it really caused me to get confused. I kind of agree with you of having different editors, even though it's like Cite is my go-to. I have over 80 different languages that I can pop open and look at the IntelliSense, but I don't use it for programming anymore. I use it for text, any sort of a text file. And then I program in Studio, AutoHotkey Studio. Anyway.
Yeah, you just get so used to it.
Yeah.
So I like it too, because then I can have all my settings of how I want it for Python and that. But then when I jump over here, I have all the settings I like for AutoHotkeys, and I don't have to worry about it somehow doing something wrong. But yeah.
and I finally getting back to XC Baby. I see he says, I need to solve the stats question using AutoHotkey. So yes. So I have never done any sort of stats inside AutoHotkey. You're going to have to do some math there. So I don't know how to answer your question. I'd have to dig into it. I haven't used AutoHotkey at all for calculating any sort of statistics. Sorry. And not that I'm saying I don't want to help you, but if you want to, if hopefully you have my email, if you want to shoot me an email with a very specific question, maybe I can take a look at it because I know a lot about stats. It's just I haven't used AutoHotkey at all for calculating anything like that, and we'd have to have the formula and break it out. And honestly, and you'll laugh, even though I spent so long in data science, I don't do math. Like I always relied on SPSS or whatever for crunching the numbers. So I suck at the formula kind of thing. But yeah, if you want to shoot, if you have my email, if you don't, actually I'll just type it in the chat here. Shoot me an email in specifics, because it's always crossed my mind of using AutoHotkey for doing some of the stuff of doing regression or ANOVA or something simple. But I don't really do any stats work anymore. So for me, I'm like, it's just work that I wouldn't really use. But Dr. Cook, he and I both use AutoHotkey and SPSS, and he uses R a lot. And so he might have done some of this. Maybe I can bug him and see if he's done anything in AutoHotkey.
Could I make a point here? You're dropping things into two different chats, and I'm on Zoom, so I don't see what you just put on the channel.
Yeah, we know. It's
actually something Joe and I were just talking about before we get on here. Is did you get to play with it at all using the YouTube API so we can post in both locations?
Well, I haven't tried it at all, but we'll have to use the API, the live API for doing that. But Constance, you can imagine, I got 3 different windows open here besides trying to look at other people's stuff. And it's a lot also to be trying to field questions, read questions, and get back to the right windows. So yeah, but that's where I'd say is, it's good. It's a good habit because the vast majority of people are hanging out on YouTube. That's my go-to really quickly to post something just because it's available and people can see it and you can go back later and see it. Right. But most people stream that channel and then mute it because otherwise we'll get this crazy echo or mute yourself. But yeah, and I apologize. It's just, trust me, if you were, it gets so confusing when you have all these windows and trying to keep up with everybody.
And I have Joe's chat open too, so I can just see stuff better.
Right. You're one. I'm not even watching yours. You're watching mine too. And it's just.
I always have two
Like
tabs in my browser for the two channels, so I can monitor the two. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because someone asked me the other day, like, Joe, do you have two monitors? I'm like, no, I have three, but I really need four. If I had four, I could actually make sense of this because I could put stuff up and I would leave it there. But with three, I haven't found a good system. But that was why, to Tom's point, that's why I was so excited earlier when I was able to use AutoHotkey to pull in YouTube chat programmatically and grab it, right? Because I'm like, oh, I haven't checked first to confirm I can use the Zoom API calls to get the chat. Hopefully that's available. Because if I can programmatically kind of blend these together and I don't have to go find the window. I can make the window, make it always on top, put it in one spot, and hopefully be able to interact with that one window and it goes everywhere and I get it from everywhere. So that would be amazing. Honestly, that's to me something I think if I create that, I'm not giving that away. I mean, like, oh, that I could sell. Like that's a great thing that people I'm sure complain about of how do you manage more than one thing? It's so damn confusing.
Yep.
Looking forward to that being implemented. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, amen. Me too. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Oh, let me check my chat. Nothing yet. So I'm just going to throw this out there since we got a little quietness going on. I finally got Microsoft Office thanks to, I think his name was Matthew, helping me out with some stuff on that. So shout out if he ever watches this. But yeah, it's really cool because now I can actually do like comm videos with like Word and all that. So I got like Word, PowerPoint. I already have some Excel videos out. And what's the other one? Word, PowerPoint, Outlook. Yeah, Outlook. And then I'll do an Access one eventually, but it's been like 15 plus years since I've used Access. So I'm sure a lot's changed and I have to kind of relearn it. So I'll get to that eventually, just because it would be really cool to play around with Access and AutoHotkeys, doing some databases and whatnot. That could be really useful versus using like Excel in that style. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Well, I'm just curious, that last little bit, I got a little confused on what you said. Because I heard you say you were mentioning using COM in a lot of ways. And then you said doing something with Excel, which for me is still COM. But that's where I was confused of like, you're going to use the database instead? Is that what you were saying instead of Excel?
Yeah, because I know a lot of people use it in that style to pull data. But with Microsoft Office, you get the one program that's called Access. Mm-hmm. And it's, you can use it for SQL, all that kind of stuff, but getting it to use it with AutoHotkeys with basically in the same way you would use Excel where you're inputting data in certain fields and then pulling it. But this would have a much better, it's built to store data in that way and be more searchable, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's been like 15 years since I've used it, so I got to relearn it.
Well, yeah, it's an old, and I'm not going to knock it. I mean, it's there, but I would personally use the SQLite database instead of Access, and it's still a database, right? And John actually led a webinar on using SQLite with AutoHotkey, so we have a good web. I'm just saying it's a good thing.
I'm not saying use one over the other. I'm just saying, hey, it's there if you want to use it.
Yeah, but back to my earlier point, which is what I was saying was built into and I think back to at least 3.11 of Windows. Is this ADO database. It's built into Windows. We can programmatically connect to it, send queries, do stuff, join files, do what, like with SQL. I mean, it's crazy. Like people don't know it's there, but it's there. And like I said, I need to make some videos on it. I just haven't used it all the time, but it's built in. So if you're doing anything with AutoHotkey on someone's computer, you don't have to give them a DLL. You don't have to say, do you have Access installed? It's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never used it. I didn't even know it was that old. You said from like back in the days of version 3.1.
It's before XP. I mean, I know that. I don't know how far back, but it's been around forever.
I've heard of it, but I've never actually used it. I don't know why. I guess I've never really had much of a reason. I don't have any reason to honestly ever use Access, but it's just a video that I think some people might find helpful.
Yeah,
I never use it either, honestly.
And to to clarify one other thing, because with Maestricht, we went down this path and hit a giant wall. But SQLite is an amazing tool if you have your script that you're going to run and you on your computer, even if you have different things, but it's you are the one connecting to it and doing queries. If you're doing something where you have shared things, and let's say you're on a network drive at work and different people are going to have, their applications running, and it's trying to connect to that database that's on a shared network drive, you can run into problems because they don't have a built-in queue to manage it. So that's where using MySQL actually takes care of that. And you can use MySQL, but that has to be, you have to have a database in the cloud somewhere, or you can have it on a network drive as well. But just if you're doing only one instance, or you're running on your computer, SQLite is great. If it's more than one, I would take the MySQL approach or a different approach. But
yeah, I've ran into that problem before. With not even just databases, with a lot of different things too. And AutoHotkeys is the system or whatever program we're using not queuing people up, and then you got two people access it at like the same time, and then AutoHotkeys throws. And this was one thing that I just, oh man, drove me crazy, is people would get an error, and even with comms too, AutoHotkey would show an error and they'd be like, oh, your script's broken. And I'd be like, no, my script's not broken, the system's broken. AutoHotkeys is just the thing that's finding the issue. So we had like memory leaks with Internet Explorer and not closing the comms correctly. And because of that, AutoHotkeys would basically time out and be like, could not complete action. And they're like, oh, AutoHotkeys is broken. I'm like, no. AutoHotkeys is just what's realizing that there is a problem. And that was like the hardest thing for me to explain to some people, is that just because AHK is throwing the error, it's not a problem with it. It's a problem with Internet Explorer.
I actually had a really interesting one with a client yesterday. They're like, hey, some of the script you wrote, something's broken. They weren't pointing fingers. They're just saying, can we get on here and fix it? So we get on there. And even though we had built a script that would, in Excel, if there's a password, it removes the password automatically. It would remove it and do its stuff because we had to do it. And for whatever reason, the file that he had a password, and the error came up saying this Excel file does not have a password, and then it wouldn't work because it thought it didn't have a password, but it did have a password. It was really, anyway, it wasn't, again, to your point, it wasn't AutoHotkey that was really breaking. It was something weird with the Excel file. And we're like, okay, well, give me the file. Let me look at the file, because I'll have to program around what's going on. But yeah, it can be very funny how sometimes you think it's you and it's not necessarily you. But you know what? In their eyes, it still is you, right? It's
yeah. Because the code you make is what's showing the error.
Right.
Yeah. And I used to have that happen so often where I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that. It's not my code. It's something in the system or the program you're using. It's messing up. Sorry. I can make the error auto close.
Right. Well, and that's where also, Tom, and that's where, people on the forum, they'll post something, but then, like you said, they don't even often give you, and I know I see you comment so many times on it. They, hey, why doesn't my code work? And they post the image of the code, right? And you're like, give me the code, man, come on. But on the errors, they'll say, hey, I get this error, but they don't actually show you the actual error, the line error. It'll be like, hey, there was a problem. And you're like, that doesn't help me at all. It doesn't even tell you the line number. Like, you got to see specifically what the error was.
Yeah. Well, I've even had people who are just like, hey, my script's not working. Why? Well, what's your code? What if you tried?
You didn't say because you're an idiot? Sorry.
The other day, I've never seen this before. I forget where it was, but someone made a post and they were like, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the code I wrote. Will this work? And I was like, wait, you didn't test your own code? And that baffled me.
Will this work? That's awesome.
And I was like, what?
It's theoretical code, Tom. It's theoretical.
Yeah, but
just
I'm like,
a word to say bye-bye, everybody.
See you
next week.
Yeah, and I was just like so shocked. I was like, wait, what? I was like, did you even test your code? Like, and his code was perfect. Like, and at first I was like, am I missing something? So I copied and pasted his code, And I was like, yeah, it works flawlessly. I was like, so the guy never tested the code. I was like, this is the weirdest thing. I was like, if I was in a work environment and I wrote some code and went to my boss and was like, hey, will this work? He's going to be like, I don't know, does it? And that was just like the funniest post I've ever seen.
That pops in my mind is that sometimes people are like at work, they don't have AutoHotkey, right? And someone, they're looking in the forum, they're trying to help someone, but they just write it, but anyway, I understand your point of isn't it better just to wait, to test it yourself? Yeah.
It was just so bizarre. I saw someone pop into the Zoom and then they disappeared like 10 seconds later.
Oh, I didn't see it. It might have just been John. I saw when he was shutting down for whatever reason, it switched his picture for a second.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I saw Chunji mentioned he likes to use REST APIs, which REST APIs are the web service API. So they're not a program. They're not like an API to connect to Python or Windows. You're connecting to a web server. And that's why I was asking you in the chat there if you use Fiddler, because the other day when Dennis and I don't think it's been released yet. I think it gets released pretty soon though. On Monday, I was going to plan to release it. Him and I were having a call, just chatting, and he also uses APIs, but he hadn't used Fiddler. So I was showing how you can look at your network traffic with Fiddler. And I have a API syntax writer as well, which is very helpful if you're not used to API stuff. But how you can see your traffic, and more importantly, you can see your browser traffic and your AutoHotkey traffic when you're trying to kind of imitate your browser. So it's very helpful. Did anyone else have any other questions or anything?
Nothing on my side. Oh, I got one of your people the guy who asked about Notepad++, he was just saying thanks. He said a hug from Brazil to you guys.
That was Denelson. Yeah.
Good
guy. He was doing a little work for me, and it's awesome. It's fun talking to people in different parts of the planet. It's really cool. He has a YouTube channel. He just doesn't speak English regularly, so when I've talked to him, it's still pretty good. But we want to keep practicing a bit, and then he'll be joining us on hopefully some of these and some other calls. But it's fun to connect with other people who have similar, they're doing similar stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. So he's doing, I guess, in his native language.
Portuguese, yeah. He does it in Portuguese. And
I wanted to say Spanish for some reason.
It's like a blend of Spanish and Italian, if I remember right. But yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great to have him on. What's his channel name, by the way? Not that I'm going to understand anything he's saying.
Right. I'll put it in the chat. Let's see. Because I made a pretty link for it. Oh, and that has the tracking. But anyway. So that'll resolve to it just because, and I have yours, Tom, actually, let me put yours in here. So
yeah, I'll put yours in there.
So, those are your respective channels. Anyway, and so he's doing stuff in Portuguese, and he needs to do more. But I was telling him, his English is pretty good. He should consider doing them in English because it just opens up. I mean, AutoHotkey is already so niche, right? Yeah. But granted, there's probably not too many AutoHotkey Portuguese channels, so maybe he owns that market. So
yeah, definitely, probably. Yeah, and I know there's another guy who pretty much owns like the South Korean market for AutoHotkeys, John Lee or something like that. His stuff's pretty good.
We should plan.
He does it both in his in Korean, and then he does the exact same video, but like in English. But like 90% of his views are from Korean people. Because
okay, cool. Again,
well, we should more languages.
Well, I was going to say, why don't we try and plan? And maybe we don't during this time, right? But let's plan a get together for as many AutoHotkey YouTube channels as we can.
Yeah, I got a few people I've talked to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's that guy in Korea. He's pretty cool. You got the Brazilian guy. There's
Wayne. No, I know of one other one that I've corresponded with, directly that I could easily see if he's interested. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
And then another people are, what's that guy's name? Something like Andres or Andres or something. he does some AutoHotkey stuff. And then there's this new channel I just recently discovered who, yeah. There's another guy too, who's, I think it's a pretty new channel. It's a pretty cool channel. It's called, it's literally just called Work From Home. And he does a bunch of AutoHotkey stuff and like power, you know, basically he does a lot of like automation stuff, focusing on like, you know, having a job in your house to help you, you know, do stuff better kind of stuff. So he uses some AutoHotkey stuff too. And he actually follows me. So if he's watching this, let us know if you want to join us.
And Chunji, who was here earlier, he has a YouTube channel as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he reached out to me on Discord, so we're going to have a chat here at some point. But I'm sure he'd be up for it as long as the timing works, right? That'll be the tricky part, especially with people around the planet. It's why Jackie and I picked 2 in the, you know, is it's late enough, but it's not too late for Europe, but it's you know, not too early in the day here. But if we did it as a recording and not live, I mean, we could do it live, but I think something like this, maybe we do as well, no, we could all live stream at the same time. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Well, I was going to say we live stream or record whatever we want. And then if there is somebody who just like cannot make it, maybe we could just like have them do a pre-recording for themselves, just as a way to introduce themselves, their experience with AutoHotkeys, why they like it and that stuff. And then we can just like play it real quick, just so they're not like left out. You know, they can at least do somewhat of an intro for themselves, but they won't obviously be part of like the live discussion of whatever topics we go for. Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Cool. All
That's
right,
all I got on my side, I think.
Yeah, I got to get going myself. But I saw Juho Lee. Is that who you were referring to?
Yeah. I knew it started with a J. Yeah, he's mostly like got like, you know, Korean market, but he does speak English because he does his videos in English also.
Cool. It'd be really fun to get as many of us as we can, and just stream at the same, stream at the same time or share the same video and have a chat about, you know, helping people and what people ask. And you know, a couple of years ago, it was before COVID. We were talking about having like a convention, like doing something in Las Vegas, but maybe we could still just do something, you know, get together on Zoom as a virtual convention and, you know, have a couple lectures and chat and stuff. That'd be fun.
No, yeah, we should definitely plan that for maybe a few months from now, you know, because there would be a lot of planning, trying to get people.
Yeah, agreed. We need to have scheduled speakers with topics very clear and outlined, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to add that to my list of stuff to start looking into. And then for the AutoHotkey people kind of stuff, maybe like a pre-opening to whatever with everybody, maybe make like a chain email. We'll just throw everybody in there at once so everybody can see the discussion happening with each other. And
well, you know, and you know what?
Well, I'll gather what emails I got and send them over.
Yeah.
Well, emails than I am.
Well, yeah, and but we could maybe even do like a Telegram or a Discord thing, right, where we get together on there, and then I'm not a big email fan, even though I use it a lot. I think something that's live that we can interact with would be a little funner, you know what I mean? But yeah, I still like the idea.
Yeah, and if we do something like that, we could also use what's it called? Kahoot, I think it's called. You ever use that?
No.
Kahoot's kind of cool. It's a great way to do live surveys. So basically, it's a website. It's free. You go on there, and you know, like you or me, we would say like we're the teacher. It's used in schools, obviously, a lot. And you ask questions like, you know, you could ask like, what version are you using, version 1 or version 2? And people literally can answer live, and we see the results live as they come in with the bar graph moving with every vote that comes in. And that's always a lot of fun to do, to just kind of throw out there. And they just go on their browser. We give them the link and they can answer all the questions we put in there. So we've used that at work. We've used it at school before. But yeah, Kahoot's pretty cool for something like that, I would think, as a great way to get our audience to really interact with us and see, you know, what they're thinking versus, you know, 100 people sending us chat messages with their answer.
Well, you can do a poll in the chat, but it wouldn't be a group across channels, right? Which would be.
Yeah. And that's why this would be good. Kahoot, you share the link, I share the link. We both see the results together.
Yeah. Have you done anything with the Telegram? Do you use Telegram?
A long time ago.
Okay.
Long time
Denelson, the guy from Brazil, he had used the API for Telegram, so he sent me some code. I tried playing with it, but I got to work on it. But you can create a bot and interact with it and stuff. So I thought that was cool because I'd like to be. And he, like, one example is, he said you can have, hey, your script running, and when it's done, have it notify you on your phone that, hey, the script finished running or whatever, right? I'm like, there's a bajillion things I could think of that I would probably do with this. But yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, everyone, I got to get going, but thank you.